Okay, so officially welcome back. We finished our last video with the gym goer's dream, and I kind of really went hard on testosterone, alcohol and caffeine, and it was a bit more physical, say. Whereas with this video, what I want to do is venture into something a little bit more slippery. Why is it that when we achieve our goal is when we finally feel lost? And I want to explore this with three things: the blur, the climb, and the continuation. In this, I aim to discuss not how easy it is to achieve our goals, but how easy it is to lose ourselves once we get there. We start this by talking about the arrival fallacy. And this is a term coined by Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, and I hope I didn't butcher that, but it refers to the belief that you'll be happy once you arrive or once you achieve. And a great example of this is how in our current world we measure everything through likes, comments and shares. And this engagement gives us dopamine. However, the dopamine is short and shallow. This leaves us empty, wanting more. And we end up in a cycle of trying to achieve the engagement over and over again. And it's like, how come we're never happy? What is it next that's going to give me that same dopamine that I first wanted and that I first received? So as we feel validated by the external world, we take those messages that we receive from outside and then we bring them over here and we internalize them. And then what we do is we tie them to us and our identity and our belonging. So then we assume that these messages we receive from the external world are a representation of how the world perceives us. Then we internalize them. In turn, we end up with a skewed sense of reality that then becomes our foundation for our decision making. And before long, we're stuck in a cycle of short-term goal, short-term dopamine, short-term goal, short-term dopamine. And not a lot is actually happening and not much is taking place, but we keep thinking when we get there, where's there? But when we get there, that we're going to be happy. And then we keep saying that when we get there, we're going to be happy. So what the arrival fallacy has done is it sparked an existential crisis, and we don't know where we belong, we don't know what's next, and we don't know where we're going. And this is why I say over and over again, pursue the pursuit. Get better at something. Get off the hamster wheel and ground yourself in a reality that you choose. And this is the best way I've found to explain that. When you take this first step, your safety net is gone. The fantasy is over. Here is where people will hold you accountable on your way to wherever you want to go. You have to start facing some uncomfortable truths. You have to learn new skills. You're going to have to change your habits. And this is where you're scared and uncomfortable, because the first time in your life, you're going to have consequences to your actions. And if you finally confront this, then you'll realize how far you really are from here. But to take this first step takes so much courage. And once you do it, I cannot explain how good it feels. And this is where the real chase starts. But while you're here, and there's nothing wrong with being here, but while you're here, don't expect to get out of that cycle of chasing the short-term dopamine and the short-term goal. And this is where we begin the climb. In the climb, you have to see the journey. You have to look forward in awe and look back with gratitude. It's not, people look at goals as if they're a mountain and when you get to the top, you've achieved it. But the way that I teach and the way that I try to get people to look at it is you have to look at it like the never-ending stairs. You must imagine Sisyphus was happy. You must forever stay a child to the pursuit. Fulfillment does not come from winning the marathon. It comes in the grueling hours and days of training leading up to the marathon in which you then compete. We treat the goal with more importance than we treat the pursuit. So when we reach the goal, we think the pursuit meant nothing, and then we don't know how to appreciate the pursuit because we were so focused on the goal. And your identity should lie in what you've done in the pursuit of the goal, because that's where the fulfillment is. That's the undeniable stack of evidence that you can, you will, and you have. You don't get to the obstacle and become grateful. You don't do the next thing and all of a sudden you feel happy. We must treat the journey with the same importance, if not more, than we treat the goal. We have to feel satisfied and grateful in the pursuit of the goal in order to understand that what we're doing is not the obstacle, but it's the journey that we're going through. I know that sounds so cringe, but it's so true. It's so understated. And there's a reason why we see people climb the top. It's more specifically athletes and actors. They get to the top and we think, oh, they've got everything. Why would they let it all go? They slip and fall, drugs, alcohol, girls, etc. It all just goes, it crumbles. But why? Because they looked at it like a mountain. They got to the top of the mountain and then there's nothing left. The summit feels good for 2 minutes. And where do you go? And what do? They throw themselves back down the mountain in the pursuit of the next mountain, not realizing that what should have been an endless staircase was a one-stop shop. So they throw themselves back down in the pursuit of the next mountain, not realizing that if it was a staircase in the beginning and you change your mentality, it allows you to keep going. So we know not to define ourselves by the grind. We know to treat the journey with a childlike awe and be grateful, which leads us into the continuation. How do we keep going? And this is the big one. The continuation is about refusing to let your achievements tie directly to your identity. The goal is a marker. It is not the checkpoint. You do not eliminate everything once you get there. It's just a mark. And then there's the next one and the next one. And imagine this just goes on forever. You're not a better or worse person in correlation with your achievements. You're not a better or worse person because you have more money or more status or more success. But when you tie your identity to the goal, when you're looking at it like you're going up a mountain, what happens when you don't get to that goal? Does everything all of a sudden become worthless? Do you just bin it? Just bin the whole thing? I don't know what to say. A good way to think about it is you've gone through all the gears, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and now sixth. You're cruising on the freeway. You're doing 110. But because everything is moving so fast, you haven't looked back in gratitude to how long the journey or how far you've come on the journey. So you think you're not moving at all. There's no indicator because you haven't stopped to allow yourself to appreciate how far you've come, and that is your fault. Pause. As you're going at 110, check the scenery. Look at what's going on. Don't distract yourself. Appreciate in real time and feel the satisfaction of the pursuit. So when you get to your goal, you don't decide to bin the whole thing. And ultimately, you have to let go of the societal chains that tell us we're only worth our achievements. Then you fall in love with the pursuit and you realize that life is the pursuit. And it's only when you realize that you are enough that you can be better. And that's the paradox. And that's how you endure and pursue forever. So when you look at the blur, the climb, the continuation, you realize that I'm telling a story. That in itself is personal growth, and that in itself is a journey. Remind yourself that you are in control of the reality that you choose, and it doesn't have to be the short-term dopamine, the quick changing of hobbies. It can be a lifelong pursuit of something, of anything of your choosing, and it doesn't have to have a physical manifestation to that pursuit. And if we were just taught and if we just listen to pursue with intention, then we can move with purpose and we strip our identity from our physical achievements, you can anchor it in the pursuit of who you want to become. And that is ultimately how you endure and pursue forever. Don't arrive, continue. And that wraps it up for today. This is a topic that I feel so passionate about because I don't know about previous generations, but I can speak for our generation. We are so tied to what we achieve, and we are only measured by the physical. Maybe this is just a Sydney thing, but success is measured by how many trips to Europe or how many cars or have you bought your first house yet? But are you a good person? Do you treat people with respect? Do you have humility? The pursuit, we've been shifted into thinking that it's physical, when in reality, it's internal, and facing the internal conflict of being a better person, telling the truth, respecting people. And so this subject hits home to me because as a personal trainer, I see everything. And that's just the message that I wanted to get across today. Don't fall for the goal. Fall in love with the pursuit. And then a good life is a goal. Thank you.